if you haven't had an opportunity to check out Josh Ward's column, I would highly suggest you do so. So he talks about the 5 prospects, NFL prospects on Tennessee's team that could be in the draft next year. So, number 1 that everybody wants to talk about is Joe Milton. And we're going to get to that because I think that Joe Milton has an opportunity to do an Anthony Richardson, and that is blow people away. But we'll get to that. First, I want to talk about the other 4. First down, defensive lineman Omari Thomas is 6'4", 320 pounds. I think that Omari Thomas has an NFL future, so I'm going to put the onus on you, and this is going to be hard, Caleb. You give me the over-under of where Omari Thomas is drafted. So you can say middle of the 2nd round, middle of the 3rd round, middle of the 4th. You can say 1st round, whichever you would prefer, and then I'll take the over-under, and it's brought to you by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Andy Mason has the best service, has the best prices in the biz. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. In his office, over 40 years of experience, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Go there now. He's my realtor. He should be yours. Omari Thomas, you're the gambler. Set the over-under for me, sir.
All right, I'm setting it at the 5th round.
5th round. I will go higher than that. So I guess it would be higher or lower.
Over, yeah.
Yeah, I would say he will go before the 5th round. I think that he's going to be a guy, based off what I've been told in his work ethic, that he's going to grow into a pretty solid prospect. I would have him at 3rd round. Brew McCoy.
2nd round.
Okay, I'm going to say 1st round. And here's
why.
Yeah, here's why. Because I think he's more talented than Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt, and they went in the 3rd round. So I think he's a late 1st rounder, maybe early 2nd rounder, but I'll go on record and say that I think Brew McCoy is that good. He will be a 1st round pick. And I also think that we jumped all over him, or the media did, not you and me, but the media jumped all over him about the transfer situation. In the end, when you look back at that, he's done everything right. So I don't think there's going to be any baggage that he'll carry to the NFL.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, there's still the legal issue that he faced before he transferred that is going to come up, because that was kind of a serious thing that he got accused of. And,
That's true.
And there's also, I'm not so sure Brew McCoy, like Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman were both 1,000-yard receivers. I'm not so they had some production. I think Brew McCoy is going to have the production. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I think, don't we both agree that at this point, Squirrel White looks like he'll be the leading receiver this year? Like, if you had to bet on who a 1,000-yard receiver would be, you'd bet Squirrel White, right?
Yes. Good points on both. I think they'll look back at the issue at Southern Cal, and I think that they'll find that they're okay with that. I mean, it's not great. And for those that don't know, Caleb, just kind of revisit that really quickly.
So I'm trying to remember all the details. But basically, he had a domestic violence issue at Southern California.
Right.
Which we know is very serious.
Yes.
And got suspended for the year after. Or didn't really get suspended, but didn't play because he had to wait for the legal issues to resolve itself.
Right. And at one point, he wasn't allowed on campus because it's a private school. I think that will certainly be looked into. I think that will be far in his past at that point. And he steadfastly denied it. We also know, yes, it's serious, but we know people can be misaccused. Is that a word? I don't think so. Can be unfairly accused is a better way to say it.
We can be hazy on these things. We have to be fair that, like, I don't know if you guys ever read any of Malcolm Gladwell's books, but he has a couple of instances where he talks about some of these really crazy cases with sports athletes where everybody immediately jumps where you say there might be some guilt. They mean, like, oh, you're saying they're guilty. No, we're saying that maybe they may have done something they shouldn't have done, but they may not be guilty of what they're accused of.
Yep. Great point. All right. So hit that like button. I haven't said it yet. If you haven't subscribed to this point, please do so. We certainly appreciate that. Linebacker Aaron Beasley. We would not have had this conversation a year ago because Aaron Beasley was thought to be Robin to Jeremy Banks's Batman, right? And as it turns out, Beasley had the better year. And he can make a big leap, as Josh Ward wrote in offthehooksports.com. I certainly believe he can, Caleb. But I question his pass coverage skills. You brought that up before. Where do you have him going in the draft?
I have him way low. I'm sorry. I'm setting the over under in the 7th round. So will he get drafted or not? Basically.
Okay. So Beasley was 3rd down. I'm going to agree with you on that. I'm going to say 6 or 7, somewhere in there. It's not the end of the world if you're a free agent. He needs to go to the right team. Everybody says that, but I mean that in particular is he doesn't need to be asked to do. He needs to be, I believe, in a 3-4 type of system where he's most oftentimes in the box. I don't think you want him in pass coverage more than not. Okay,
and we're talking about a system player who also has his own legal issues.
Yes. So there's an issue there as well. I think the 2 legal issues, and I'm not just lumping them together, but I do think the 2 legal issues we talked about are going to be resolved and not looked over, but maybe a small factor. I don't think they're going to be a huge factor. And then other than Joe Milton, the most important player on this football team is Cooper Mays, who we'll visit with later today at center. He's incredibly important. He's smart. He should have been the all-SEC center at the end of last year, I believed. He wasn't. He was preseason all-SEC center. I don't know what happens with that. But, man, I think that's a rock. I think Tennessee has a real challenge to face when Cooper Mays moves on to the NFL. Centers can be overvalued because not a lot of offensive linemen can use their hands. So where do you have Cooper Mays going for 4th down?
See, I think tracking the history of the draft, centers are undervalued typically more than overvalued. So based on the history I know of Tennessee centers, Cooper Mays should be a top 2 round pick. He should be. I'm setting the over at the 5th round, though. I think sometimes centers get undervalued. Scott Wells comes to mind. Scott Wells should have been a 1st rounder, and he fell to the 7th round.
Wow, I didn't remember he fell that far. But what about you saw Bill Belichick take a center out of University of Tennessee Chattanooga last year in the 1st round? It was a shocking pick. Think that has any effect?
Also Bill Belichick, the GM, is actually kind of being called into question right now. So,
yeah, fair.
And also, remember this was a heavy offensive line draft this year, meaning next year they're going to be light on the offensive line. That's how that usually works.
True. I think Cooper Mays goes no later than mid-3rd because he's able to snap. That's a big factor. I also know that he can long snap from talking to him. So that can help you out. That can take up an extra roster spot. So I'm going to say 2nd round for Cooper Mays. I think he will wow people at the combine with his interview skills. And I think he's turned himself into one heck of an athlete. And it largely depends what Tennessee's able to do this season in the run game, because Cooper was undersized at one point. I don't think he is anymore, but I do believe that he is he's a guy that fits the NFL, and it's a passing game now. He has lighter feet. So I think that's the type of guys you want to go against lighter guys like Aaron Donald. He's talked about going against bigger guys, and he's fine with that. But the NFL is getting lighter and faster. So I think that he will be a good fit for the trend in the NFL currently, which is pass, pass, pass.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he will. I'm sure, particularly with the level they get, the amount of shotgun they use now in the NFL, and the fact that he's playing in a system that almost never really lines up under center. I think that's going to prepare him well too. I mean, I think center is the one position where, and Tennessee doesn't play a spread, don't get me wrong, but center is the one position where playing in these college offenses actually can sometimes prepare you better for the NFL.
Okay, so, and by the way, thank you, Smoky Mountain Red. Dave has refined those interview skills for Cooper. You'll be happy to know that Celebrate 98 will show off some interview skills. If they're any good, we'll find out. So, and that is coming maybe this week. So who else might be on the draft board? Who else do you look at and say on this roster, this Tennessee roster, they could sneak into the draft?
So let's not forget about the other two edge rushers, Tyler Barron and Roman Harrison. Both of them, I think. I mean, you're talking Byron Young last year, top 3 rounds. You don't think Tyler Barron? I think Tyler Barron actually he's a more refined Byron Young. I don't think he has this much raw potential, but I think his production could actually surpass Byron Young if he plays as much. And so watch out for Tyler Barron and Roman Harrison on either side. Jalen McCullough, I fear, is going to be the Trayvon Flowers of this year. He's going to make so many sacrifices for weaknesses at cornerback that it's going to hurt his NFL draft stock, which is sad because I think he could be drafted otherwise. On the receiver end, I think Ramel Keaton is a senior. So I think along with Bru McCoy, Ramel Keaton might consider coming out. I think he has a COVID eligibility year left. But no, he doesn't actually. No, he does. He does because he redshirted 1 year. But either way, I think he might come out after this year. And then the 2 running backs, Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, one of them might make it into the pros. I don't know. I don't know if either of them gets drafted. Of all of those, I think Tyler Barron and Roman Harrison are the top 2.
Yes, and Keaton does have 1 year remaining. I think that he could be drafted. And I think it depends largely on what Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman do in the NFL. I mean, if you see those guys and they're just products of what some people want to call a gimmicky system, which I don't believe, but that is out there, then maybe he's not a draftable player. But I think that he will find a home in the NFL. I think he's that good. I think he's shown that type of skill. Vassy Lawn and Garden, man alive, it's worth the drive. You've got to get to Vassy Lawn and Garden with their buying power. They'll save you thousands on your industrial fleet, your commercial fleets of mowers, of any type of lawn maintenance products you need. So VassyLawnandGarden.com, man alive, it's worth the drive. I don't care if you're in Nashville, Knoxville, or Chattanooga. To get to Vassy Lawn and Garden, Vassy.com. Again, man alive, it's worth the drive. The guy that I think is going to be scary good, like really good, is Dylan Sampson. Now, I know he can't leave after this year. This is just his 2nd year. But I think Dylan Sampson will be a guy that NFL teams love. Kind of like a Wes Welker type. That's how I envision him in the comparison. Thoughts on that? I mean, I know that's
I saw Alvin Kamara still more than Wes Welker.
Do you? I don't see this. I don't see the power. You may be right because I know he's put on weight, but he may well be that type of player. But I want to see a little bit more power. I thought Kamara was really powerful for his size.
Well, that didn't show as much in college, though. It showed when he got to New Orleans, I felt like. But you have to remember how Sean Payton schemed. Before Alvin Kamara, there was Darren Sproles. Before Darren Sproles, there was Reggie Bush, which was he always had those all-purpose backs was when the Saints were at their best. And you often saw them one-on-one with receivers. I mean, not receivers, excuse me, with defensive backs. And I feel like at that point, yes, the power kind of can show a little bit more than a north-south runner who is running into linebackers every time.